I'm pretty sure we're going to be in the right spot. So we're just going to go with it. Okay, awesome. Welcome everybody to day 2. So today is day 2 of the Purpose Breakthrough Challenge. I'm so happy you're here, and I wanted to do a couple of quick announcements. Those of you who are joining us on the Facebook stream, so awesome to have you here. Also pop your name in the chat, and then also tell us where you're from. And then those of you who are joining us in Facebook, if you want to be able to join us on the Zoom side where you can do different comments and get different information, click on the link that's in there, and then you can join us from the Zoom side for the next round. And then otherwise, just hang out with us and watch this, and we have lots of good stuff to go. Okay. All right, so awesome to see you. I'm just going to check and see. Hi, Brittany from DC, and then Takako, Tech Trouble Tuesday. I wouldn't call it tech trouble. It was just a slight tech glitch, and they were telling me things I didn't understand, which is what happens sometimes with technology. So anyway, I'm Nicole. If you haven't met with me, it's so lovely to have you here. Those of you who are popping in, pop your name in the chat, pop in where you're from. Same thing on Facebook. I'd love to see who's here with us live today. It's so amazing. So a couple of quick announcements before I get going into today's content and what we're talking about. So tomorrow, Wednesday, the doors to my course, Your Clear Calling, open. So if you are like, I'm really interested, I want to know a little bit more about it, I'm going to put that link to the course in the chat. And I have a scholarship that is open until tomorrow afternoon at 2 p.m. Pacific Standard, 5 p.m. Eastern Standard. So if you're interested in this course, and you're in a place where you're like, I really could use some support to be in the course, I'm going to pop these in here, these links, so that you can see and take a look at both the course itself and then also the scholarship. So I do offer scholarships, both needs-based and then also for one full BIPOC scholarship. And a big part of it is for me is like, I really want to be in support of people who truly are in a place where like that, it's the time for them. We just actually wrapped a cohort of Your Clear Calling, and we had 3 people who came in through scholarship, and it was so powerful to see their expansion, their shifts, and what was possible for them for being in the course and really going through, and their commitment was so amazing. It really was so amazing. So if you're like, I know that's me, I'm ready, that scholarship link is in the chat on Facebook. It's actually also on the box there, so check that out and then see that. Okay, so I wanted to dive into day 2 of Purpose Breakthrough. So day 2, this is like an amazing day where we're really going to that next stage and next level. And then those of you who are popping in and just joining us now, name, I love knowing where you're from, name, and then also where you're from. So yesterday we talked about the exact way to start your day to stay clear on your calling. And it was really around starting to establish a morning habit and ritual for yourself that was really part of your practices of putting yourself first and prioritizing yourself and starting your day in a much clearer space. So for those of you who were on yesterday, I would love to hear how it went. If you were able to do it this morning, so remember RPM, so rise, P, and it was move or meditate, but really what I like to think of it as me, rise, P, me. Like, what is it for me in the morning first? 5 to 10 minutes, making that incremental change. So if you weren't on yesterday and you weren't able to actually do this, great. One of the things I talked about is that practice of doing it, even when you skip a day or you don't remember, can you do it again the next day? And this is really powerful whenever we're starting to establish new habits and new rituals. I've been in one this year where I've been taking cold showers this year. And let me tell you, I'm not always excited to take this cold shower, but it's really good for your system, your hormonal system, your body in general. And what I always remind myself is if I skip it, it's not about the skipping it, it's about the return. Some of you had messaged me and told me that perfectionism is still a thing. Totally. Same with me. Like, I'm recovering perfectionist. I teach from that place because I really understand what that is like. So the return is our practice. The return back into doing these practices for ourselves is really the important place. Brittany, you did an RP me this morning with your shower. Awesome. How did it feel? Like, I really want to know like how your day has been since you did that, because that's such a big part of it. Like, how, when you start to actually bring in the practices, what's happening in your day afterward? How are you feeling? What is your mood? Where is your contentment level? Because these are the things that start to make a difference in the long term. When we're looking into purpose and calling, which is really the intention and where we're going, right? Tomorrow, we're going to talk about 3 simple steps to finally discover your purpose and not get derailed in that process. So when you're doing that, you really have to start to have some practices and rituals in to stabilize. right? How do you stabilize yourself? How do you actually stay centered for yourself? And it really has to start every morning, right? The morning is the most important part of this. Eventually get into the evening, all of that comes into play. And let's give yourself somewhere to start. That 5-minute practice in the morning, that practice of keeping it up for, extended period of time till it literally becomes a habit. Like I have morning rituals, like I just don't even think about it. I just roll out of bed, I meditate, I do my thing, I do all those practices. And once they're built in like that, then we can start to be creative and start to be more energized and bring all of that into our life on a daily basis. And Brittany already is saying she's been focused on me today instead of yourself drift to the Instagrams for like, yes, I hear you on that, right? It's like, how can you really be more present? How can you be more connected with yourself rather than distracted by everybody else? Because that was one of the key things, is not letting everybody else's stuff come in first on your phone. That's so awesome, Brittany, good job. So today, so this is what has been happening for all of you, starting to have some breakthroughs around putting yourself before everybody else. How do you start to do that for yourself? How do you start to really be aware of when you're not putting yourself first? Because that's going to make a much bigger difference for you down the road. So today is really, we're talking about the top question I ask myself when I'm paralyzed by indecision. And the question I have for all of you first, is anybody out there a little bit indecisive? Do you struggle with decisions? Do you have a hard time with that? And I was going through some of the new folks who've joined us in the Facebook group. Hello, if you've joined us over on Facebook, who are saying that indecision is something that for a lot of you is really challenging, that you really have a hard time doing that. Hello, Stephanie from Saskatchewan over on Facebook. Welcome. Thank you for joining us. That indecision is a major thing for a lot of people. You can raise your hand. Sometimes people were raising hands yesterday. You can pop it in the chat if that's something for you. You're like, yes, I'm constantly dealing with indecision. And when indecision, I'm also, when I sort of think of it in this category that is beyond being indecisive about some things, right? It could be indecisive about what I'm eating for dinner. It could be indecisive around what's next for my career. There's all these different pieces of it. There's also this sort of insidious place that comes in where you make a decision, and then after the decision, you doubt the decision as well. And to me, that's also a form of indecisiveness. So if that resonates, raise your hand or pop it in the chat, because that's a different, that's one that wears away at you, right? It starts to erode your trust in yourself because you made the decision. And especially if you have a high-powered job, which I know some of you do, and that you're all strong women who care and are ambitious and really care, that when we start to get into that place where we make the decision and then you doubt, and you worry and you kind of stress about those decisions, those things take up so much energy. They take up so much energy. At the end of the Clear Calling cohort, this last one that just finished a couple of weeks ago, we were talking about that, because sometimes too, what people are coming into me, they're like, I really want more time. Do you know how you have more time? You stop worrying or doubting yourself. You start being clear in your decisions. You connect inward to your intuition. You trust yourself. You make your decisions, and then you stick with it. And you're not wondering if you made the right call. This is so important. This is so essential. And this is something we're going to talk about more tomorrow in the 3 simple steps to finally discovering your purpose, because it really is a process for us to really practice this trust. And that for us, and it's really the first component of your clear calling method is trust. And it's also like a lifelong practice. If you're a recovering perfectionist like me, it's not like I automatically always trust myself, but I'm really aware of when I don't. And then I get myself back into a place where I do. So one of the places, I'm going to tell you all a little story about this, and then I'm going to tell you what this awesome question is, because it's such a good question that really changed my life. So, years ago, I was at the White House Easter egg roll. I had already left journalism. I had left the Seattle Times to be a full-time yoga teacher. And then I got this incredible invite to go teach kids yoga at the White House Easter egg roll. So as you can imagine, I was pretty stoked. It was an amazing opportunity to go. 30,000 people come to this event when it was happening during the Obama administration. They're coming into like Michelle Obama's Let's Move thing. It was just a really amazing event. And there's like 30 yoga teachers there, and we're just there helping out. And so we're teaching kids to do yoga. Kids are in their Sunday best. Like, it's just a giant deal, right? You have to go through all the security checks and you have to do all these things. And so being yoga teachers, what we would do is the day before, we would go to Whole Foods and get a bunch of snacks, right? Because we had to be really energized through that whole day. And so we were in the Whole Foods and I was with a couple of my buddies there and and I could just feel stress. I could feel so much stress. I was stressing out. I was stressing out over what kind of fruit I wanted to buy. I was like, do I want an apple? Do I want an orange? Is this too messy? What kind of food do I want? And I was just feeling so much anxiety. And the thing that was funny is this was actually, I think, my second time that I was there. I had already been there, so I kind of understood the drill, but I was still just feeling so much anxiety around what was going to happen and if I was buying the correct fruit. Is this resonating with anybody? That experience where you're stressing out over the smallest thing, right? Because this is always a sign for me. If my stress is going super intense on something really small, there is always something for me to check on. So what I did, I looked there and I had actually just started to work with my teacher, Suzanne Conrad, at that time. And thank God for her, because I really needed it in that moment to have learned this. And I looked at my friends and I looked at myself and I was like, is this my stress? Or is this your stress? And when I really sat and I paused for a moment and I looked, I realized it wasn't mine. It was actually not mine. It was his. And I was like, oh, I am not stressed about buying an apple right now. I am okay. I am good. I feel fine today. I'm excited. I'm excited for this event. I'm not worked up. But whatever, he had stuff going on and that was his own thing. So this is one of the most powerful things that you can do for yourself. And if this is making sense to you, please pop something in the chat. Let me know that this is resonating, because this is honestly one of the most powerful questions you can start to understand for yourself. Whose stress is it? Is this my stress or is it their stress? And if it's their stress, and this applies to bosses, this applies to your mom, this applies to your sister or your brother or your kids or your spouse or your friends. Is this my stress or is it their stress? And when you can start to piece out and distinguish between your stress and somebody else's stress, I mean, the thing is, this is the truth. We all have so much of our own stress, right? If anybody has some stress going on in their lives, you can raise your hand and say yes. Because if you have stress going on in your own life, why would you take on somebody else's? Does this make sense? If you guys, I just like to pause and really make sure it's making sense to all of you. We got at least one hand raised over there. Yeah. It's like the hand, it's like, yes. Okay. Thank you, Grace. Right. It's like, oh my gosh, yes, that there is something really big going on. Why would you want to take on the whole world's stress? And have you noticed, if you really look out into the world, and I know we're on this track right now where we're not checking our phones in the morning or we're getting clarity, and yet it's all around us. There is so much stress in the world. There's so much stress. And I'm not saying that there aren't important things for us to put our attention on. And is it stressing you out? Is it making your life more anxious? Is it piling on day after day because you're taking on the stress of everybody around you? And then what's happening is you're dealing with your own stress, you're stressing about them, you're worried about everybody, versus actually working on how do you get yourself out of that stress. Does this make sense to everybody? Because I really want you guys, this is a really important principle and concept to start to work on for yourself. Is this mine or is this somebody else's? And I always joke with one of my clients, because I wrote about this once and we were joking, like, drop that stress like a hot potato. But it really is like that. Like, drop it like a hot potato. Drop your mom's deal. Drop your spouse's work stuff. Drop whatever's going on with like kids' stress. And it's not that you're not trying to take care of things. And that's what I want to be clear. This is actually a kindness to all of them, because when you don't have somebody else's stress, you are so much more able to support them. You're actually able there to help them figure out what to do. But worry and anxiety, this is not you at your best. Worry and anxiety does not fix world problems. And we sometimes have been trained and taught to think that the more we stress and the more we worry and the more we're doing all of this craziness in our minds, we somehow will help the world. But actually what you're doing is doing the world and yourself especially a huge disservice. It's a huge disservice to constantly be in that worry and stress. There are so many people, I was just going through all the new members in our Facebook group, and so many people were talking about overwhelm, anxiety, lack of clarity, lack of time, lack of focus. Let me tell you, it's coming from stuff like this, worry and anxiety and this doubt cycle that's in your mind. And all of those pieces are really taking you and distracting you from what it is to do. And really, for myself, whenever I notice like this is happening, so I'm like, is this my stress or their stress? Okay, this is their stress. Good, I'm in a good place. What if it's mine? That's a question that comes up for people. What if it's my stress? What do I do next? you do something to help yourself. You do something to help yourself. So for me, it's like listening to a really good song is super helpful. Moving my body, you all know, like I'm a movement person, going on a walk with my dog, breathing some fresh air, getting into the sunshine. That's a huge way to move out of stress. So you want to start to come up with a list of things that really help you. And I want to hear from you. For some of you already know some of these things, pop it in the chat. What is it that actually starts to help you move out of stress? And I'm going to check over on Facebook too, because this is something that happens. Stephanie relates to that worry and stress piece. Yes. And how do you start to move yourself out of it is a really key important thing. And so popping into the chat and identifying it. So tell me, whatever it is, some of you are probably yoga people. There's probably some of you, it's like your pet is a huge part of it. Put in there. And we want to actually have specific identifiers for ourselves for how do we start to move out of stress. And I'm going to be talking even more about some of these strategies tomorrow in tomorrow's masterclass, because this is a huge thing. And this is not like a small thing. This is actually something for us to start to get really skillful around, because the more skillful you are around navigating anxiety and stress, the more you actually get better at releasing it. Some people also have been messaging me and saying I have like a lot of blocks from the past. Absolutely. And that stress and anxiety is showing up for you on a daily basis. And the more you can get really practice at noticing it and starting to make some shifts for yourself and getting yourself back into a good, clear place, then you're actually going to be able to navigate your life. It's just the truth. That's how you actually start to navigate your life, is that you move yourself out of that worry and doubt, and you can get yourself back into a clear place. So the top question really is it my stressors or their stress? And now we're a little deep into the other conversation, which is like, what do I do when I have this stress going on? And so I'm going to give you one of my favorite secrets around what to do to start to help yourself and start to boost yourself up. Okay, you're like, it's not my stress, but there's just still something missing for me today. I really want to feel better. I really want to feel more like myself in this moment. And this is one of my favorite things, and it's called telling yourself, good job. Yes, it's that simple. Tell yourself, good job. I learned this from my teacher, Suzanne. It's one of the most profound things you can learn. I actually had a client recently. We worked together for a month, solid month, weekly sessions. We talked about all kinds of stuff. And she said, out of everything that she learned from me, and so she had a job where she wasn't super happy. She's really trying to work on feeling healthier in her body. And she just mentally, she had been a couple of years out of a divorce, and she was at a place where she just really wanted to take care of herself. And so when Mandy came to me, we were working on all these things. And then I told her this, I'm like, okay, we're going to work on telling yourself good job. And she's like, this is so silly, because this is how I want you to do it. I want you to start telling yourself good job for every little thing that you do, no matter, especially the hard things. So some of you were on yesterday, you might see Coco walking around back there. And yesterday she was barking. She was barking during our day one. And I had to afterwards, after our call was over and our session was over, tell myself, good job for having my dog bark for several minutes during this call. And, and I just had to be like, good job, Nicole, you did it. You made it through, right? So it could be something that simple, something that fresh. It can also be for myself, like I'm not huge on the dishes. They're not my favorite thing. So every time I do the dishes, I'm like, all right, Nicole, good job. You did your dishes, right? And so what can you start to pop in for yourself? Like that could be on your list of things that you tell yourself good job for. And you can start to put it in the chat as well. Because I like to hear from you. Otherwise, I'm not always sure if you're actually really getting what I'm saying. So put it in the chat being like, at least, yes, I got it. Or what is it? Or what you can start to tell yourself good job for. But it's actually one of the really great ways to release stress and worry for ourselves is to start to acknowledge all the things you're doing. Because the truth is, even if you're married and partnered, 80 to 90% of what you're doing every day, nobody else in the world really knows. Like they have no clue what you're doing. And like you're only summarizing it at the end of the day, even if you are partnered. And so our practice is really more around how do we start to get really good at acknowledging ourselves? Okay, I do have some stress going on. I'm going to use this acknowledgement to help myself. And so going back to my client, Mandy, she was so funny. She's like, Nicole, out of everything that we did, and she's like, I thought this was so silly. This was actually the thing that really worked the most because she could just do it in the moment. She could do it at work. Good job for running that meeting. She could do it at home. Good job for helping her mom who lives with her. Good job for taking care of her kids. Like good job for all the things that, is this resonating for all of you? Like all the things that you take care of all day. And here's the thing with women too, right? Like we do a lot every day. Like you're doing a lot. You're taking care of yourself. You're taking care of family members. You're taking care of community members. Like I'm looking at Takako and her job is very community oriented. And then we're all doing so many things in our lives and that nobody is telling you you're doing great. I had to tell myself, so I have this big yard. I had to tell myself, good job for taking care of my yard, because my yard can feel really challenging for me. And that's the way I can get out of my stress cycle around trying to deal with, like, I have perpetual stuff going on in my yard. So just being like, okay, good job, Nicole, you really did this. And this is such an important thing for us to really understand and start to access on a deeper level, that with, as women, like, we're just really used to processing a lot of details. And if there's any moms out there, wave at me, because moms, right, the number of details that you're handling that if you have a male partner can't really see is tremendous, right? Like, you're handling so many details. You're remembering every kind of food everyone likes. You're grocery shopping. You're getting everyone out the door. You're doing all of those things. And if you're not really able to acknowledge yourself for those things, and you're waiting for somebody else to tell you, you could really be waiting forever. That's the truth, right? You could really be waiting forever. So how do you start to really do this for yourself? Brittany, this resonates for me. I often undervalue my work and accomplishments. Yes, and to help recognize and applaud what you do. Absolutely, Brittany. This is a big thing because, I love gratitude practices. Don't get me wrong. Gratitude is awesome. Sometimes for me, gratitude is too broad. Even when I get specific, even when I get really specific, like, I'm so grateful for all these components in my life, because actually what I need is a pat on the back. Do you guys see the difference, right? So gratitude is like being so grateful. I love my home. I'm so grateful for access to the internet. I'm grateful for my dog. For me, plants are a huge part. I'm so grateful. But good job is an acknowledgement. It's that next level for yourself of really starting to be like, oh, okay, I did a good job doing something hard. And this is where worthiness is coming in. I know for many women, like, how do I be more worthy, feel worthy in my life, and feel like I really deserve everything? It's starting to actually understand and acknowledge all the small things you're doing every day, because you're all doing it. I have no question. Every single person, Grace, Amanda, Brittany, Teresa, Stephanie, Takako, all of you on this call, Stephanie over in the Facebook group, other people may be over there as well. But like, I really know this for each of you, that you're doing a lot. There's just no question. You're doing a lot. You're doing a lot every day. And then on top of it, there's like the rest of the world is coming in as well, right? So that's why we have to constantly be like, your stress, not my stress. And that, again, that it comes from compassion. It's not a judgment place, and it's not a distancing place, but just being like, okay, that's your stress. I don't need to take that on. I've got my own stuff to deal with. And the better I am, the more I good job myself, the more I listen to music or move my body or do the things that really help me, the more I'm actually going to be able to help sort through problems in the world, the more I'm able to actually be at cause for something that I care about in the world. Really, sometimes I think purpose for everybody feels very fluffy. Oh, purpose. That's for people who have privilege. That's for people who have time on their hands. That's for people who have many. Privilege. Purpose is essential. Purpose is really essential, like being in your purpose, you being happy, you contributing to the world, because purpose, the definition of purpose is actually contribution to others. And so when we're in purpose, there's actually it's a gift to the world. And it's actually much more profound how you can change the world by being in your purpose, rather than being like, oh, this is selfish, this is just about me. Because to me, ultimately, when I'm really clear and I'm super grounded, I'm taking my care of myself all day, it allows me and enables me to be in my purpose, which is to run this business and work with clients who are making a big difference in the world. And that ripple is really making a difference. And my contribution to my clients is making a huge difference in the world. And then my purpose also includes my family. It includes not getting stirred up when things are going on with my family or stress is happening in there, that I can be like the calm person who's going to help us navigate this forward. Can you all see how this makes sense? Like, we're really wanting to be like, how do we start to release that stress, other people's stress, not taking it on, so that you can actually be calm and centered in your purpose. And then when you're really in that place for yourself, you're now able to support everybody else. Okay, if this is making sense, again, just say, yes, I got it. Pop it in the chat. Let me know that what I'm saying is resonating, because otherwise, I don't know. I just don't know. So sometimes I know you guys have been real quiet in the chat, but just put in a yes. You don't have to make a big reveal in the chat. You can just say, yes, this makes sense, or I can really start to get that, because it is essential. It's one of the most important things I teach. I have a couple of clients who are on this conversation, and they know that. Like, it's really important for us to see this pathway forward. One of my clients, Terry, she was, I talked to her about her, I think a little bit, but she's somebody who was like really the center of her business. And then she was leaving. So she was like a chief of staff job. And she had to use this good job practice a lot when she was ready for her next stage. Like she was 60 and she's like, I'm tired of this work. It's time for me to find my own way and my own pathway outside of this job. And if you're like, oh yeah, that resonates for me, it's like, you know that it's time to go. You know that it's time to go. And how can you good job and say to yourself, like, yes, it really is clear. And then use good job to be like, yes, I can get there. And I know that it's possible. One of my clients was telling me recently, like she had this major health crisis with with her kid that happened, and work really got in the way. And that was just like a big wake up call for her. It was a big wake up call to be like, okay, God, I know it's time to go. And we've been working on that. And she's going to use good job and a lot of these tools to help herself really navigate a new job, take a lot of time off because she needs it from her job's been super intense and stressful in healthcare. Like, how do you start to actually access what it is time for you to do and not let worry and stress around all these other components and factors get in the way? And if for you, like money, if money gets in the way for you, I mean, that's why I have scholarships. Like there's ways for us to really start to tap into a much bigger plane and space of who you're here to be, and to really start to learn and access that for yourself is like one of the things I care so much about for women, that your worth is so solid, rock solid, 100%. Because when your worth is 100%, wealth follows that, abundance follows in, you feel really on task and happy and fulfilled in what you're doing. And I'm telling you all this because I know that's actually why you're here. Like, yes, you want to release the perfectionism. Yes, you want to know your purpose, but it's really ultimately for that place of fulfillment, to actually be like, I am doing something every day that I'm passionate about. I'm doing something every day where I feel like I'm actually contributing to the planet in a really powerful way. I am doing something that matters and makes a difference. And it could be starting a business. It could be, finding a new relationship. It could be many different pieces of that. And again, tomorrow, I'm going to really talk about how do you start to get that place? How do you start to access what that looks like? What are the key pieces? And then we're going to start to put in a few of those key foundational pieces tomorrow so that you can actually have that for yourself. I'm just kind of talking about it because I got excited about it, but it is really an important thing. It is actually it is the most important thing you can do, to know what it is that you're here to do. It really is. And when I say that, the definition of it is broad. I'm not just saying career. It can also include your family. It also includes your health. There's a lot of pieces to this, but it is actually one of the most important things in life, is to know purpose and then to be pursuing it. By the way, when you're happy, everyone else gets happier. Have you noticed that? When you're happy, everyone else around you will be happier. And especially because you're high achieving women. I know it. You're the linchpin in your lives. Like, you're the person, you're like the Terry where everything rotates around you. And so when you start to find that access point and you really start to move that forward, your communities, your families, your friends, your bosses, your networks all come along with you. So it's not a small thing. I used to think it was such a small thing, but it's actually the most important thing. How do we start to get there? So tomorrow it's going to be that conversation, 3 simple steps to finally discover your purpose and not get derailed. Because that's a big part of it. Like, how do we keep ourselves on track without getting derailed? So this is the practice I want tomorrow. So you guys get a little homework. You guys all good with homework? If you're my people, you like homework, because I love homework. I love having a task. RPM tomorrow morning. So again, I want you to do it again, right? That's the practice. RPM tomorrow. And then every time you feel stressed today, I want you to check, is this my stress or is this somebody else's stress? And I think you're going to be surprised at how much freer you feel. You might find that your boss is the one who's stressing you out. You might find it's your sister who's calling you. You might find it's your mom. You might find that it's your spouse and like they're just having a bad time right now with work. And you're just going to be like, oh, that's your stress. It's not mine. That you can start to hold that space in a much deeper level for yourself. And you can have that space for yourself, that you can really have that. And I love that Stephanie was like absolutely 100% over in Facebook. Like that, this is, the more we are really in these practices for ourselves, the more our networks and world and communities expand and grow along with us. And that's the coolest part of this. Work on yourself, you get to work on the world. So that's today. And again, good job to you all. So let's just do it. We're going to practice it right now. I know you're all muted on your side of the internet. Tell yourself good job for showing up for this. Good job. I did it. Good job. I showed up for the Zoom webinar in the middle of the day with this woman. Some of you know me, a lot of you don't know me, but like, you just showed up for it. And then you're just like, oh yeah, good job for taking some time to start to connect to myself and really start to help myself get into a better place, right? Get into a better mental space and get to a better space and connection space for myself. This is where it starts. Good job for listening, for being present, for paying attention. That's how we start to expand ourselves. This is how you start to find that access point. And tomorrow is the big one. Tomorrow is the big conversations. I have prizes, by the way. I have a prize for all of you tomorrow by just showing up live, participating. There's an amazing prize, a movement related prize that you can get for showing up. So make sure you show up tomorrow. Mark your calendar, 11 a.m. PST, 2 p.m. EST, same time. We're going to go for a full solid hour tomorrow. So just make sure you're really there, ready, present, and connected. And we're going to get some huge stuff out of the way on the steps to actually find your purpose. So we're going to be on that practice tomorrow. I am so grateful for all of you for being here, for being so present, for being so connected into this. Thank you to Brittany. Thank you for just being here for yourselves, truly, like really honoring yourself, what you need. Oh my gosh, my Coco is like, loves to just chime in, but it's the truth, right? To be here for yourself, to stay connected. And then tomorrow, ooh, we're taking the lid off. It's going to be so amazing. So join me tomorrow. Have a beautiful day. Good job to yourself. Don't take on other people's stress. We're going to dig in tomorrow instead. We're going to dig in tomorrow on another level. All right. Have a beautiful Tuesday, and I'll talk to you guys tomorrow. Okay. See you there. All right. Bye, everybody.